The Alliance Alive is the latest JRPG brought to us by FuRyu, who are best known for games such as the Caligula Effect, Lost Dimension, and The Legend of Legacy. The Alliance Alive may look like a sequel to The Legend of Legacy at first glance, but it instead is a standalone game with its own separate story. All of that being said, the game does borrow quite a few elements from The Legend of Legacy, such as the combat system. So with all that in mind, does The Alliance Alive hold up on its own? First off, let's discuss the game's story. The Alliance Alive takes place in a world where humans have been conquered and near enslaved by a race of creatures known as daemons. The game centers around a resistance group who is trying to find a way to liberate humanity from their grasp. You will have a cast of 9 main characters who will be going on this journey together, and each character is actually pretty interesting. Sure, they may appear a bit two-dimensional in terms of development, but they do manage to get the job done and add a nice amount of chemistry to the story. While the story is very simple and won't win any awards for best narrative, it nevertheless was a treat to experience. All of the characters worked off each other incredibly well, and made me want to do whatever it took to see them succeed in their journey. I think the only issue the story has is the pacing, but this is remedied the further you get into the game for a more streamlined experience. If you enjoy a good story with atmosphere that sucks you in, this game may catch your eye. The gameplay of The Alliance Alive is very reminiscent of The Legend of Legacy, which originally was much to my chagrin. Thankfully, after having my hands on this game, I actually quite enjoyed how well the game played. You spend the game exploring the open world or dungeons within the world during the story. I believe what I enjoyed the most about this game was exploring the world around me. The Alliance Alive has this strange, somber atmosphere throughout the game that just really sucked me in, and the exploration really drove it home. On to combat. The Alliance Alive is a turn-based JRPG, but it's not like your traditional turn-based game. By this I mean, there is no leveling up your characters in the traditional sense. Just like in The Legend of Legacy, you gain new abilities of your characters through repeated use of certain skills and weapons. By using certain skills over and over, your character will inevitably awaken to new skills. This means you'll have to use weaker skills to unlock stronger ones. Thankfully, with continued use of a skill, you're able to level up said skill, making it more powerful, though at times not as powerful as the newer skills you unlock. This in turn makes combat much more balanced, as you have the ability to use stronger regular skills as opposed to stronger ones that use SP. The Alliance Alive also has an interesting burst type mechanic. In this game, you have something known as Ignition. Once your ignition meter is full, you can perform a move known as Final Strike. Final Strike is an incredibly powerful move that can help you out of any situation. However, the cost of this move is that of your weapon, meaning after you perform the move, you will be unable to use it again until it's repaired at a guild. While this can be seen as a bit of a trade-off, Final Strike is pretty much what the name implies, a final strike. This move has no problem of doing damage well into the thousands, and can easily take down bosses when in a pinch. If you have a full team ready to use Final Strike, you can pretty much wipe an enemy no problem. This sadly creates a balance issue. While yes, it is a good panic button, it kinda removes a lot of strategy. While yes, it may take a while to build up the meter, if you have 1 or 2 teammates go down, the meter will fill up insanely fast. That said, it becomes a risk versus reward at times, as if your Final Strike does not take out the enemy monster, your entire team will be at a disadvantage, as you'll be down a potentially powerful weapon and maybe 1 or 2 teammates. So I only found myself using it as a last resort. Another interesting mechanic in this game is the chain combat system. While roaming the overworld or dungeons, you will run into a lot of enemies. If an enemy sees you, they'll begin to chase you. If multiple ones are chasing you and one catches you, you'll begin a chain fight. Chain fights will have you fight your way through every enemy that is chasing you and in the surrounding area. While on the surface these chains could be bad for the player, you get a multiplier bonus of money and skill points at the end of these gauntlets. This makes grinding a lot more effective. It is also handy if you want to clear out a lot of enemies in the field in one go. The Alliance Alive is a very good looking 3DS game. The towns and dungeons you explore are pretty well crafted and are a pleasant treat to look at. Sadly, this cannot be said about the game's overworld that you explore. They are overall very bland and only serve to connect you to different destinations. That said, this is still a very pretty looking 3DS game, and I often found myself just enjoying the scenery of the more well crafted areas. The music in The Alliance Alive is honestly very relaxing. Each track in this game just adds a lot to the game's overall somber atmosphere. The only track I found in this game to be a bit on the disappointment side were the battle themes. While tracks all had this classical theme to them, they honestly made the fights feel kind of boring. To make it more jarring, in some instances, there is straight up no battle theme, and the fight will only play the current overworld music. This at times really took me out of the game. However, this shouldn't take away from how good the music truly is in this game. I think the only downside of the presentation of this game would have to be the lack of voice acting. While I was not expecting this game to be fully voiced, having some voice acting in this game's pre-rendered cutscenes would have gone a long way of driving the story's point home. It just became jarring to look at. You would have very dramatic and powerful scenes, and just watching the characters mutely address each other was just so weird. The Alliance Alive succeeded in everything The Legend of Legacy failed in. From rich environments and a somber atmosphere, to a much more balanced combat system, and to an overall much better story, you truly have a JRPG that channels the roots of a lot of classic games. While the game may have a few technical issues, it is a rather enjoyable time through and through. The 3DS may be in its twilight years, but it has another good JRPG to add to its lineup. Check this game out if you need another game to scratch your JRPG itch. And that does it for our review. To see the written review, be sure to check out our website, gaminggammon.com. A link to the site will be down in the description bar below. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments section. I would love to hear from you. And if this is your first time checking out my channel via this review, hey, be sure to stick around and subscribe for future reviews, let's plays, commentaries, and more. And as always everyone, thanks for watching.